Welcome, Sonal. If you could, please state your name, your city, your neighborhood, and maybe tell us one thing about yourself that you'd like people to know about you.
Hi, Nan. Thanks for having me. My name is Sonal Jessel. I live in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, New York. And one thing about me is that I'm originally from California.
Okay, well, great. Well, we're glad that you are here in New York with us. As this COVID crisis trails into the summer months, do you worry at all about heat waves or power outages, or how you or folks you know that might be more vulnerable are going to be able to cool off while we're in a period of social distancing?
Yes, especially when the COVID pandemic first, really hit New York hard. One of the first things that I thought about and became very, very worried about was that summer is coming up, and what are we going to do to ensure that, as people have to stay home a lot more, how are people going to be safe in their homes? And we know, especially in New York City, one of the biggest issues is that we have a lot of low-income folks that live in older buildings that tend to not be so energy efficient, that tend to not have great air ventilation, that tend to, maybe not have AC units or just have old single unit ACs. And a lot of times that leads to really high utility bills, or that leads to maintenance difficulties where people can't cool down in the way that they need. So one of the first things I thought about when, COVID hit and thinking about summertime was, how do we make sure that people are going to be safe in their homes when they have to be in their homes a lot more this summer, more than other summers? Normally in New York City, people cool down by going to public spaces, by going to their friends and families' homes, museums, movies, barbershops, all of these places that are just not as accessible now. So yes, I'm definitely worried about it. But I'm seeing some great strides and some really wonderful creativity amongst people and New Yorkers that are very, smart and capable of finding ways to stay cool when they need to. But we are dealing with a really high number of people that have issues staying cool in their homes and paying their utility bills.
That's so true. How do Black Lives Matter, the uprisings, connect to climate change and environmental justice?
If COVID has taught us anything, it's that we're not ready for climate change. And one reason why we're not ready is because we live in a system of white supremacy and anti-Blackness, in which our systems, our institutions, our non-Black public are very comfortable with Black as well as Indigenous people bearing the brunt of the climate change crisis. And to me, that is very much part of the dialogue of saying Black Lives Matter.
Thank you so much for that. What actions towards racial equity would you like to see coming out of this moment?
I think that, one thing that's happening is that it's becoming put more into the popular media, all of the different social inequities that exist in the United States, something that a lot of people have known for a very long time and have lived with for a very long time. But the discussions are getting heightened and the discussions are happening more. And so what I hope, the actions that come out of this moment are, how do we create better assistance? How do we create better programs that help people in the long term, so that when a pandemic hits, we don't have entire groups of people, especially along lines of historical racism, that don't have the materials, the mental health, because they're depleted from other hardships, that is needed to be able to be safe in this moment. So I hope that's something that comes out of it, is things like universal health care, family leave, all of these different things that are needed to help people that are struggling and have historically been denied, assistance and privilege to have that in the future. So when another pandemic comes, or when climate change leads to some big impacts, which it already has and will, that we're more ready for that.
Oh, I agree 100%. What gives you hope during this period of time?
We recently learned that the Black Lives Matter uprising was maybe the biggest uprising in US history. I mean, that really gives me hope that people are coming to consciousness of something that's existed for a very long time. you know, as we know from the Aboriginal movement in Australia, our liberation is bound up in others, and that's why we all need to come together and do this work.
Sonal, thank you so much for spending time with us. Again, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you very much, Nan.